Okay, so this is a short video on how to use Fireworks, how to set up a page, and maybe how to import your first image. What's important to note is one or two things are different for me using one of the school's laptops versus using one of the school's desktop computers. And if you're using the Chromebooks, you will need something totally different again. Okay. First of all, opening Fireworks, I actually do have it open down the bottom here, but for you guys, you will find on your desktop that there should be a folder labeled something to the effect of Adobe Creative Suite CS5, and in the folder you should have a link to Fireworks. When you click on it, it will open and it should look something like this. Okay. Now, what we're going to do to start with is click on Fireworks Document, and we need to set the size of our page. Okay. Now we're going to set it to these values. The width should be 420. The height should be 600. The resolution should be 72. And these should be the settings. So it should be in pixels, pixels, and pixels per inch. Okay. Down in the bottom, what's quite important is that we do take a moment and set our page to transparent. And there's a good reason for that. We don't want a white background unless you actually choose to. We want to start with a nice empty blank document. So we're going to say transparent. Okay. Now what you have here is a totally blank document. It might be handy for you to zoom your work out a little bit so you can see it, but that might not work for you. You might prefer to be a little further in. And just a very quick run through of what we've got here. On the left hand side you have a selection of tools. You have tools for selecting and moving things around. You have a crop tool. You have what's called bitmap tools. These tools are essentially making permanent changes to the pixels in any images that you import. So in the case of, say, the paintbrush, you are painting pixels over the top of something. This is what is described as destructive, because when that happens, that image is actually being changed. Okay. A little further down, you have vector tools. These are slightly different. Rather than painting in pixels like the paintbrush tool does, this uses sort of ratios and maths to do things. There are a few advantages to it, but chief advantage is that on the whole, these are considered to be non-destructive. They will create a box, and that box can be deleted. You'll be familiar with it when you see it, but here what you have is things like a line tool. You've got a gradient tool. I think that's gradient, maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. Draws a square, perhaps. You've got text, that type of thing. And then there are one or two other tools. Web tools we're not really going to use, but colors down here. You've got a paint can for sort of filling things. You have an eyedropper for selecting colors, a pencil for doing outlines and what have you. We'll get used to these, but you're probably familiar with them from using things like MS Paint. Okay. Now, in terms of getting an actual image in here, in our previous video, we did look at saving images from the internet, so we should have a small stock of them. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to File and then Import. Okay, when you go to Import, you will see this dialog box or something similar pop up, and what you're going to have to do is navigate to where you've saved your pictures. Now, if you followed my instructions, you should be able to go to your area by clicking on this PC and then your area, and then you should somewhere in here have a folder that's maybe called something to the effect of DVD Design Project. Okay. When I open this, I've got pictures and videos, and I'm going to take my Star Wars logo to begin with, and I'm going to click Open, Import, and what this allows me to do in Fireworks is sort of draw it into place. Okay. Make it the size that you want. Now, you don't get to do this a second time. There are things that you can do to edit it, but generally speaking, you won't get that opportunity again. So it is easier generally to go bigger than you need rather than smaller and assume to make it that you'll be able to make it bigger later. Okay, so for me, I sort of know that I'm going to want that Star Wars logo at the top of my page, or maybe at the bottom, and I'm going to want it to be page width, so that's really handy. But as a rule, make your images a little bigger than you expect to need them, rather than a little smaller. Okay. Now, what you can do after that is you can import other images if you wanted to. So I could go File, Import, Handily. It'll take me to the same place. I could then go. I know I've got this really big picture of Luke Skywalker, so I'm going to click on this one. And same process. I can put this in place. This. I'm going to go big again. Okay. and I've got my images. Okay. Now, what you'll notice over here, you have a few panels, and we will get into a bit of detail with these, but one of the tabs says layers on it. Okay. Now, layers are interesting because they enable you to sort of stack things up. You can maybe use layers to help you cover something or put something in front of another, just like a stack of paper. And as it is at the moment, when I move this image around, it is on top of my Star Wars logo. And I can see that here. Look, I can see that this small image is black. That's probably that one. And this one is sort of largely grey. It's probably that one. If I wanted to check, I could click the eye and it will disappear. Okay. Now, if I'm not happy with that order, if for whatever reason I wanted this logo to go over the top of this other image, I can reorder them just by dragging them down. Okay. Now, this can be a bit fiddly from time to time, but generally speaking, you click and drag, and they will move around. Okay. So in a nutshell, what we've covered here is how to set up a new document. We've covered importing images, and we've covered layers, as well as a brief overview of one or two of the tools. I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much. Goodbye.